Hello, film students. We're about ready to launch into the discussion of sections 5 through 8 of The Quiet Man, which you should have seen before you're watching this lecture. And you'll recall that at the end of section 4, Sean sent Mickalene to be an intermediary, a matchmaker, to marry Kate, to see if she would, as he says, go for it, with them courting. Now, this is a very, very old-fashioned Irish custom. I'm sure by the time this movie is supposed to be set in the middle of the 20th century, most Americans would think this would be ridiculously old-fashioned, but that's the charm of the movie, that this village in Ireland is almost like a time capsule, a century or two earlier to most Americans. So there's this very formal scene with him in his top coat and the party of the first part and the party of the second part and all that. But of course, a crucial issue in the film is going to be the fact that Mary Kate does not have a fortune. So I want us to look at how the filmmaker, Ford, has raised this issue really for the first time seriously, and what you learn about Mary Kate as a character from the way she responds.
Brother. Oh, that won't be easy.
Oh, as well I know it. He'd as soon put his dog of a fist in me teeth as bid me the time of the day.
And we also learn the brother is going to be a major problem.
Sean, I mean the party of the first part, say about my fortune.
He says he doesn't give it. He says it's a matter of complete indifference to.
He did.
He said he doesn't give it. He says it's all momentum if you come in the clothes on your back. Or without them, for that matter.
Oh, he did he? Well, a fine opinion he must have of me if he thinks I'd go...
So you can see what a talented actress Maureen O'Hara was. She jumps up, both excited and angry at the same time. You saw the expression on her face was one of pleasure. Sean wants her so badly, the fact she doesn't have a lot of money won't matter. But the way Mickalene presented it was, it doesn't matter if she's a pauper. And she is not a pauper. She wants it to be known that she is a lady. And you can tell, just look at the home that she's in. This is not a pauper's home, right? Her brother is the owner of this house. She lives there and kind of works as a housekeeper, I gather. But these are, very nicely appointed home we're talking about. So she is, by the standards of this little village, a lady. And there you can see the way she's standing, arms akimbo, arms on her hips like that, a position of forcefulness, demanding that he take the message back that she is no pauper. She is a woman of property. And then she's going to go and stipulate what the property is.
Any man without a proper fortune? And this you may tell your Mr. Party of the first part, that when I wed, whatever's my own goes with me. Get up, little man. And all this furniture is mine, and I have the china and linen, and £50 in gold my father left me, and my mother's rings and brooches, and my grandmother's wedding veil, and her silver combs and buckles, and £30 odd in notes and silver I've earned this past 15 years. That's all.
You're a well-propertied woman. I wouldn't mind marrying you myself. Where'd you leave the bottle?
So obviously, Mickalene's character is a comic relief.
I'm no pauper to be going to him in my shift.
Okay, but let's take a look at this scene. You can see there that the furniture she was just bragging about owning, this room apparently is her storage room for her property. And you can see the furniture she was just bragging about is all covered with sheets. So this tells us something. She wants it to be protected, not get covered with dust and the like. Yes. But it also relates to the fact, remember Mickalene has referred to her twice, or will soon in the second time, as a spinster. In other words, an old maid, and as Americans would put it, that she's far too old to be expecting to get married. And so this looks like a house in sort of almost permanent storage, that like no man would have her perhaps. And all of that can be subtly sent with a message like the sheets on the furniture. On the one hand, it reflects her pride in her possessions, but on the other hand, it depicts her dilemma, that she is an unmarried woman living in her brother's house. She's clearly not a 19-year-old, right? So in this culture, she should have been married long ago. Now, we know she doesn't have much wealth, although she just bragged about what she had down to the silver buckles for her shoes. All of that is subtly sending us a message about what? Mary-Kate's intense pride and her temper. She jumped up happy that he wanted her, and then realized she was being insulted by not being treated as a lady of property, as she wants to be seen. But now she's going to respond with joy again. Incidentally, the mere fact she can play the piano, this in Victorian times was considered a required accomplishment of a lady of quality. So she's supposed to be a properly educated lady of property. And this is a way of sending that subtle message again. John Ford, the director, does a beautiful job with all this. Beautiful job. Okay, we're going to move ahead a little bit now. I wanted you to see that scene and see how you can send these subtle messages. Again, here we have the scene where Sean and Micheline are now paying their formal visit to her brother, who is her male keeper, right? It would be her father if her father was still alive, to ask for permission to court her. Now, you'll see Sean, John Wayne's character, he's an American. This all seems ludicrously old-fashioned to him. He's got flowers, and he tries to present them immediately to Mary-Kate. Micheline will not have it. He can't be giving her flowers yet. They're not actually courting yet. Mary-Kate tries to get her brother to act civilized.
Well, there's someone coming to call.
Who?
It's Micheline O'Flynn, and there's a gentleman with him.
She doesn't stipulate who.
Here, Will, put on your coat.
Again, she's very concerned about appearances. Incidentally, notice the china on display. That is a kind of china called Delftware from Holland. Very expensive china. So this, again, is a family of local wealth. Maybe not quite as rich as the widow Sarah, whom her brother wants to marry, but they are people of significance in the neighborhood. Only Mary-Kate didn't get the money. She's a daughter, right? It's expected her husband would provide for her. She gets furniture. She gets her mother's jewelry. She saves some money. That's how this is working in this hyper-traditional scenario. But she wants him to appear to be a gentleman. But, of course, he's sitting there chowing down, shoveling in the food, right?
Well, since when is the back door being not good enough?
Of course, formal company would come in the front door, not the back door. So he's not a proper gentleman.
Good evening.
Miss Tanner, we would like a word with your brother.
Come on in, so. Well,
He's in hell.
Shouldn't be giving her flowers. They're not officially courting.
Mr. Sean Thornton, bachelor, meet Miss Mary-Kate Tanner, spinster. Miss Tanner, meet Mr. Thornton from
Formal curtsy.
Massachusetts, USA.
Micheline does not know where Pittsburgh is.
this way, please.
She's trying to act dignified, but comes off seeming a little silly. And then the brother, again, acting like a heathen. Won't even look up.
My brother,
Leave the
Mr.
room. I
Mr.
said leave the room.
Yes, Will.
Sit down, sit down. That's what chairs are for. If you come for supper, you're late.
A gracious invitation, but thank you no. I don't suppose there's a drop anything wet in the house, eh?
Help us over to the buttermilk.
Buttermilk. The Borgias would do better. We'll come with your permission to the object of this visit. You've noticed, I presume, that I'm wearing my official black coat.
I have. We're dead friend here. I need no Trogon to arrange any marriages for me.
I see. You've been making fine progress with the Winter's land then in the last 10 years.
So that's showing his interest in the widow, which will prove to be very important later on.
About your sister Mary Kate and him.
Oh, get out. Well, if he was the last man on the face of this earth and my sister the last woman, I'd still say no.
So this is, of course, the first obstacle. So we've had, up to this point in the film, we've met the characters, we've learned what they're like. It's clear Mary Kate and Sean are attracted to each other. They actually exchanged a couple of quick kisses the first night when she cleaned his cabin, right? But now the brother is denying this. John Wayne assumes that's not the end. It would be nice to have a brother's permission, but to him as an American, this is just an inconvenience. He's mad, of course, but he assumes Mary Kate's just found out, no go.
Katie, we tried.
We'll see him again some other time.
I thank you anyway, Sean Thornton, for the asking.
I don't think this changes anything. It's what you say that counts, not him.
No, Sean, you've gone too far. That's enough.
Say, what is this? We're gonna get married. Are we? I don't get it.
This is Ireland, Sean, not America. Without her brother's consent, she couldn't and wouldn't. I'm sorry for both of you.
And so that is, of course, the first obstacle to be overcome is the brother's opposition. The rain, of course, matches his angry mood. And then they have the charming scene on the race course where the plot to get the brother to think the widow loves him and wants to marry him. See the tears of Mary Kate mirror the rain. Very nicely done. Here's the anger of Sean shown with a horse. But we have the horse race. Eventually, through the horse race, they have the courting. Again, hyper-traditional in every way. He consents grudgingly because he wants to get Mary Kate out of the house. And they have this very formal, extremely awkward courting scenes. They eventually will burst free on their own and take off. And of course, whoops, I went too far. The last part you saw for today, and what I want you to reflect on is the scene after the brother finds out he's been lied to. So it's this one coming up. He's being very gracious because he assumes the widow is going to let him court her now, and then discovers that was a sham that the others put over on him.
There'll be no toasts until we've seen the bride's fortune.
So here's the bride's fortune that's going to be so very important.
You'll see it. Never fear.
Oh, you'll see it now, if you please. Now then, the proprieties must be observed.
So now the fortune of the bride will be displayed. And you will notice that the brother actually comes out with this money, these gold pieces.
150 pounds gold.
That's a lot of money at the time. So the brother is being exceedingly generous. This is not Mary Kate's personal belongings. He's giving them that. It all looks magnificent. And now he is signing the register. So they are now formally married. But of course, it's at this point that the brother finds out the problem.
And may they live in peace and freedom.
Okay, I'm going to have to skip ahead a little bit. Okay, so he's...
Thank you. I've got a little announcement to make.
So here's where he
Fill up the glass.
assumes that the widow will now marry him because the Roman Catholic priest, the Anglican vicar and his wife, and Mickalene have all convinced him that as soon as Mary Kate's out of the house, the widow will want to marry him. So,
today, I've given my sister in marriage. My only sister. And now she's gone from the house of Danaher.
which he thinks is what kept the widow from loving him in the first
Without
place.
a woman. That's true.
That's right. What's a house without a woman in it?
Yeah, what's a house without a woman in it? Where would any man of us be without a woman?
So this will be the second obstacle to be overcome,
Had a mother.
as everything comes unhinged when the brother realizes that the widow is not interested in him that way, or at least not yet.
So without further eloquence,
Without further eloquence? So without further eloquence, I will give you a toast to myself, who is soon to be wed.
She's, of course, shocked, has no idea about this.
All she has to do is to say that little word. When's the happy day, Sarah, darling?
You lost the little sense you were born with. Happy
But
day.
Sarah, darling.
This is a total shock to her, of course.
God, who gave you the right to make such an announcement?
She realizes the priest had something to do with it.
But they all said, why, the Reverend Mr. Playfair, Mrs. Reverend, Father Lonigan, little Flynn, Mickalene. Didn't you tell me all I had to...
No, I didn't.
You lied, didn't you? You lied.
They strongly implied it. They never literally said the widow would marry him when Mary Kate was out of the house. You'll recall at the race and so on, they hinted that she would marry him when Mary Kate was gone, and he took the bait.
You got it by fraud and falsity. You put them up to this.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't deny it.
Oh,
The two of them knew nothing about this, of course.
Crazy am I? Well, this is something you won't get. Now or ever. Now get out of here. All of you. The Reverend Sirs, ladies and gentlemen. Get out.
Very
Get
good.
out with you, the whole
Come
of
on,
you.
let's go.
Get out. Get
Remember that John Wayne's character, Sean, doesn't think the money matters. But it matters to her immensely. Then he gets knocked out. And this is your assignment. I want you to reflect on this flashback. What role is it playing in the film? What is John Ford doing with this scene in the boxing ring when he gets knocked down? What does this tell us about Sean, about his character, about what he values, what he thinks? How is this going to affect his behavior for the rest of the movie? This is a very important scene. So that's your assignment. Write that up for me and email it to me. The flashback scene in the boxing ring at the end of section 8. Thank you.